You could play Frosthaven like this, but why would you? When you could, instead of lugging around a massive 20-pound board game or leaving it set up perpetually on your dining room table, why would you, when you could, open it up out of a backpack, or carry it around on a Steam Deck, or play it on your gaming PC? Frosthaven is going digital. July 31st. That's not very far away. Early access is going to be available for everyone who, like me, has had a copy of Frosthaven, has even played a few scenarios, has wished, desired, hoped, still has a dream that one day he'll actually be able to sit down and play through an entire campaign with his friends, loved ones, gaming group, potentially my 10-month-old son, because it might actually take me that long to get this massive behemoth to the table and fully complete. But much like Gloomhaven, those dreams, those desires, those wishes, those hopes are all a little bit more, if not dramatically more, achievable in a digital format. Now please note this is a sponsored video highlighting the fact that Frosthaven is coming to a digital platform. I have a early press copy, a beta copy of Frosthaven I've been able to sit down and play through, and the early access will be available on July 31st to everyone who's gone over and wishlisted it on Steam. So, follow the link in the top of the video description and go make sure you've reserved your seat. In this video, I'm gonna break down 3 core reasons why you, as a board gamer, if you haven't already, should be playing Frosthaven. I'm going to talk about why it's improved in some significant ways from its counterpart and predecessor, Gloomhaven, and why the digital format is probably the best way to approach it. But first, let's start with a little bit of nostalgia, and let's remind everyone of the history of this Kickstarter project. Now, if you were one of those acclaimed fans who actually played through and completed their copy of Gloomhaven before it became digitized, 1, good for you. 2, I'm proud of you. And 3, I can also only assume that the 2020 pandemic had some degree of impact on your ability to sit down and quarantine yourself inside a house and play through an entire campaign. I know a few people, couples specifically, who were stuck together and thought, well, we might as well tackle the game that's still sitting on our shelf. 5 years ago, this channel, Quackalope, and yes, that is me, don't comment on the hair, I'm still wearing the vest and tie, surprisingly enough, but the studio has changed a few times since then, had the opportunity to show off and display the first few sights of Frosthaven that anyone in the world got to see. This is the prototype, and we were ecstatic, thrilled, and had an amazing time diving in. Then, 2 years ago, this box arrived to us. We ripped it open, literally in some ways. We set up, built the parts and components, played both on camera and off camera, and have had an amazing time starting out. But, since then, life has continued to be, as life is, complicated and messy and, mixed up in a number of unnecessary ways, and my wife and I discovered the digital version of Gloomhaven. And we played through and are playing through more episodes in the digital version than I think we've ever gotten to the table, Jaws of the Lion included, for Gloomhaven as a standard board game. And now that Frosthaven is coming as well, we're still going to be holding on to our physical components. We still have the dream and the hope of one day sitting down and really playing through the actual table hog of a game that this is. But the first adventure, and potentially the only one we really truly ever have, is going to be here on this digital campaign. I literally told her maybe 8-9 months ago, when she was talking about the games that we still have to sit down and play, and I mentioned Frosthaven being a overambitious game for us to approach after we finish Jaws of the Lion, I told her that the digital version should be on the way. And it's finally here. So, if you're like me, and you've had a copy of Frosthaven sitting downstairs for the last 2 years, or if we want to go on to another level, if you're like me and you have a copy of Gloomhaven that still needs to hit the table more times than it has, you're have finished, or playing through Jaws of the Lion, you even have an adorable little solo adventure of Buttons and Bugs. This might be the first actual physical copy that I finish and table, much more portable, about the same size as digital Frosthaven. And you have the Cephalofair approved Crimson Scales fan-made expansion for the original board game, partially invented because people became obsessed over Gloomhaven throughout a pandemic. If you're like me and those have not been played or touched as much as you either wish they would have been or as much as you thought they would have been, then the Frosthaven digital game is for you. Here's 3 reasons why you should be playing Frosthaven in general. Whether you play it physically, whether you play it, in person with a gaming group, or you're going to play it digitally like me, Frosthaven improves on Gloomhaven in a number of ways. Specifically, and the thing that I think matters the most to me and a number of the people watching this channel, the storytelling, the deep, immersive adventure that you go on throughout the course of Frosthaven is richer, more thematic, more varied, more consequential than Gloomhaven. It's one of the universal criticisms and compliments that's been given to Frosthaven, the board game. And in the digital version, all of that's going to be visual, going to be narrative, is going to have voiceover and music and elements that pull you in. And we'll get rid of one of the major criticisms that many people seem to have, which is sitting down and needing to actually read through an entire scenario page, and then another entire scenario page, and then another entire scenario. Now, I like reading flavor text. I like silly voices, RPG games, D&D adventures. I don't mind. But a lot of people, for some reason, didn't come to read a novel. They came to play a game. And the digital version gives you, one, the ability to skip. My wife always, in digital Gloomhaven that we've played, somehow doesn't hear the narrative at all because she fast forwards through it and just starts looking at her cards. And then people like me can sit back, kick our feet up, and enjoy the presentation without having to drone on and make everyone wait. The next thing that Frosthaven does that improves upon the base Gloomhaven model has to do with the characters. Now, the base game has fantastic, varied, unique characters, but they do still fall into some archetypical classes. While having their twists and turns, while absolutely reinventing the wheel, it's one of the reasons why people fell in love with this game in the first place, Frosthaven steps it up another level. The characters, the summons, the familiars, I don't think that's actually a term in the game, the companions that you have, that you bring with you, and the adventures that you go through are richer, are deeper. The strategy, when you start breaking down the cards that you play, the top action and bottom action sequences, the way that every single scenario pushes you to the very threshold of survival, that is fine-tuned in a way that few games have mastered. And in Frosthaven, they step it up another level. The characters that you inhabit will change and deeply influence the core strategies that you're approaching the game with. And the parties that you create throughout that adventure will have to adapt their playstyles based on who they have with them. Instead of just convincing your wife to go with a giant berserker and then turning invisible because you have a few abilities and potions that allow you to slip past everyone and stealing all the treasure chests and picking up all the coins that you can while the enemies all swarm her and do their very best to take her down, while you, being the hero that you are, kill one of them from behind and end the scenario in a surefire victory. She did not like that approach, by the way. I had to start leaving her treasure chests as we continued playing. Frosthaven requires maybe a little bit more cohesion, and the party that you're playing with requires synergy in a way that base Gloomhaven doesn't always necessitate. Moving on to the third point as to why you should be playing Frosthaven in general, and that has to do with strategy. Now, the first point was a deep, immersive storytelling. A narrative adventure that has richer storytelling and more consequential choices than its predecessor. But, on top of that, the scenarios in Frosthaven as opposed to or compared to Gloomhaven also are more varied strategically. It's not all wander into a room or a hallway and kill everything in sight while grabbing the treasure chest and leaving your companions back in the dust. Again, I should probably continue apologizing for that. It happened like 3 or 4 episodes in a row, and she was not thrilled. I like grabbing the treasure. I think, you show me a mystery, I'm going to go for it. The strategy and the scenarios that you approach in Frosthaven are richer, more complex. They have more side quests and objectives and bosses that you have to fight or things you have to overcome in interesting ways. And base Gloomhaven was a lot of fun. Frosthaven doesn't just reiterate on that fun. It adds complexity. It adds layers. It continues to build on what Gloomhaven set the stage for. But now to why the digital side of this conversation is very important, and it attaches to that very last point. You see, Frosthaven is more complex. The min-max, the rules management, the overhead that you have to do, sometimes checking every little detail every single time you have a new round in a scenario, it's a headache. It's a lot to accomplish. It's a lot to try to figure out while you play. On top of that, there's already a digital app that helps run some of the components off and to the side. So for those of you that are board game purists, you're lying if you don't every now and then either wish or conveniently use your cell phone or iPad to help the game flow a little bit better. Well, the digital version does just that, and more so, because it creates the parameters for AI movement, for enemies activating, like a DM running the show. It sets the standard rules. It keeps the framework, the rails on the game. If a scenario has custom objectives or specific conditions that you have to always keep in mind while you play the physical version of the game, the digital version will make sure those parameters are followed. So you can focus on play, on choosing between the more complex and strategically deep scenario options and character customization that you're going to be coming across. You need that headspace, and the digital version provides that for you. So if you're one of those that has a gaming group that isn't always overly committed to sitting down and hashing through rules, if you're the person that always has to be holding everyone's hand, like anyone playing with me typically, I need a lot of comfort sometimes. Some enemies can be very scary. The video game, the digital version, Frosthaven on Steam, is going to give you that option. Now, talking about that gaming group that you have, and one of the reasons why my game has been built, played, explored, and not finished, is because you can't play this, unless you're playing it by yourself, without people sitting in the same room. And that is the pleasure and the delight of board games. But as I've gotten older, I've grown to realize just how precious and substantial that time is. I'm married, a practicing Orthodox Jew with a 10-month-old son, doing my best to cover bills and play as many games as possible. It's hard to find the time for anyone out there, and all those people in my past who have showed up to game night who have children at home, first off, how'd you do it? Second off, that little bit of time is worth infinitely more than I think I ever realized. The digital version of Frosthaven lets your gaming group stick together. The people that I started this with, the games that I've played so far that I would love to continue, sadly, some of those people have moved. Some of those people have had family challenges arise that have pulled them away from sitting here at the table. And other ones were able to pick the handcuff that I locked to the leg and to their arm. I don't know how they got free, but they did so before we finished this campaign, and I'm still upset about it. So if your game group's disbanded, or has too many other games they'd like to play, or is always having the fourth member insist on playing Ticket to Ride or Azul, lovely games, but not Frosthaven, the digital version is how you all can come together. Share a laugh, share some stories, complete an adventure, still play a board game, and actually maybe get through or close to the end. Now, the last reason I have for you to consider the digital version of Frosthaven might sound a little strange when I first present it. It's XCOM, the video game. The original, famous, highly regarded strategy turn-based video game. I don't know if any of you know it or remember it. I think a lot of guys around my age, 32 or so, that were into video games throughout their teenage years and early 20s probably have some awareness of XCOM. Well, the studio that's producing Frosthaven, a highly strategic turn-based game, an adventure game, a game in the same genre and realm as one of the most famous preceditors. Leave a comment down below letting me know what that word is. Preceditors. The head of that studio is a young man named Julian Gallop. I hope I got his name right. If I pronounced the last name wrong, I'm not good at reading. But he was one of the original designers of XCOM. Studio is called Snapshot Games, and they've put out two other games, one in 2017 and one in 2019, Chaos Reborn and Phoenix Point, both of which are turn-based strategy style games. I don't know if they're turn-based specifically, but they're the same genre as what they're creating here, both of which have overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam and have been recognized and awarded for their design and presentation. On top of that, they have another game which I think looks adorable called Chip and Claw vs. the Brainoids that's coming out sometime soon. Now, this studio, Snapshot Games, is a part of the Saber Interactive team, and they are under the Embracer Group, which is the company that owns Asmodee, published Kingdom Come Deliverance #2 this last year to great acclaim, and owns the comic book publisher and I guess other subsidiaries, Dark Horse Media, and many other organizations. Now, I know some people get a little bit concerned when they see a big company producing something that's niche, that's a hobby, that they care about and they love. And I think you have fair reason to have concern in that regard. But in this case, I'm kind of excited. The fact that the team at Snapshot Games is going to get an opportunity to work in a genre that they know so well. The fact that these larger companies have somehow collaborated in a way that's brought one of the original creators of one of the more famous versions of turn-based strategy games into a realm where he's taking a physical board game property and his team is bringing it into the digital space only leaves me excited. Because they've done it before. They've done it to great acclaim. They've continued to do it with other games since, and I trust they're going to be able to deliver here with Frosthaven. And from what I've seen so far, it's turning out really, really well. So, with all that being said, there is a link in the top of the video description for you to swing over to the Steam page and wishlist Frosthaven. It's going to be available for early access with, I think, an initial 25 to 35 scenarios right at launch on July 31st, which is in just a few weeks. After that, their team is going to continue developing, releasing, and putting out, hopefully, or as far as they've communicated, all of the scenarios in this core campaign, and who knows what lies beyond if a big enough fan base and community are excited and actively playing. I think they said they're aiming at 120 plus scenarios total by the end of the production, and I would love that and more. This is how I'm going to be able to play Frosthaven. I'm still going to have the physical components, and these trees, while not utilized and set up on the game board, will probably be used in some grand adventures down the road, or absolutely decimated by a 5-year-old in about 4.5 years who I did not give permission to play with them. But I'm excited to make some more memories. I'm excited to play this game. And I'm excited to do it in a way that's a lot more accessible than the version that I've been holding on to and had in the back of my mind and tabled a bit over the last 5 years. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Let me know, are you as excited as I am for Frosthaven to be coming to your Steam Deck or your computer? If so, why? If not, maybe don't leave a comment. No, I'm interested, actually. Why aren't you? After all the reasons I've laid out, why are you still hesitant or not interested in a digital version of a game you either love and adore or want to play and haven't? Because those are really the two communities out there. No one watching this is not a fan of Cephalofair, of Gloomhaven, of Frosthaven, and of everything they've produced. Well, not everything. There was Foundations. Other than that, though. Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Go out and play some games. We'll see you next time. Bye.